That's what I want to say. It was about 2015. I was
Mhm.
in the house and I was on the phone with my mother, and we were just talking about life and things of that nature. And I was like, I want something different. I want something different. I want something more. And I had the Steve Harvey book, his finance book, and I read it and was just like, I know that in order for me to be successful to the level that I want to be successful, I got to start reading. And I was like, I got to force myself to read. Because as a kid growing up, I hated reading books. That just wasn't my thing. I was a kid that wanted to play basketball all the time.
Mhm.
So as a result, I just started reading. I started diving in and becoming a student of business, becoming a student of life, becoming a student of personal development. And it was at that moment that I was like, I'm really going to do this for sure.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to season 2 of Breaking Through the Glass Ceiling. I'm your host, Brian H. Waters. Now, the thing I love about doing this show is I get to talk up with my friends and some new friends and learn about their journeys. And that was the beauty of season 1. Season 2, let's go continue. But I promise you, there's going to be more episodes. I've been thinking, and I think I'm going to dive in and talk about things more. So you may have a trending topics part of Breaking Through Glass Ceilings, brought to you by B Waters Productions. Well, on today's show, I bring on my good friend, Kenny Barrett. Kenny is somebody I worked with at my time at Best Buy when I was at the Owens Mill store. And at the time, he was a little bit younger than me. However, I learned a lot from him because he was sort of my retail mentor unofficially, as he was somebody who taught me really how to sell service plans. Well, he was always a people person, and since then launched his own company. So we talk about that. We talk about his journey where he was a basketball player, a high school basketball player and a college basketball player. So ladies and gentlemen, here's my guest, Kenny Barrett. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to season 2 of Breaking Through Glass Ceilings. And on the line today, I got a good brother of mine. We go way back. It's been, about 12 years now. My boy, Kenny Barrett. Kenny, what's going on, man?
What's going on, guys? What's going on? How are you? Kenny Barrett in the building.
Man, I'm glad to have you on here. The beauty of social media is a lot of times, we're different from our parents' generation. Everybody don't pick up the phone and call people all the time, but we are able to stay in contact and via social media, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. And, as a matter of fact, funny fact about Twitter, you was one of the people who got me into Twitter back when we was working together at Best Buy. I saw how you was interacting with all the celebrities. I was like, oh, what's that? You was like, yo, it's Twitter. It's back in the day of the reality TV shows. But
They say Twitter's the fastest form of information in the world right now.
yeah, some people, the celebrity in chief tends to use it a lot. He might misuse it, but it is what it is. So go back. When I met you, man, you was still in high school at Best Buy. And I remember when I started, you was one of the vets there already, and they told me that, like, oh yeah, if you want to know anything about MP3s and iPods, you go to Kenny. He got you. And we saw how you, even like at that age, excel as a customer service agent. By the time you was playing basketball, man, and you went on to play at community college. And how did you know, that you had a passion for, we'll start with basketball. When did that passion start?
To be honest with you, I really didn't even know I had a passion for basketball. My best friend had a passion for basketball. So we was doing Jackie Robinson, and I was just like, you know what I want to do? I wanted to do karate, to be honest.
Okay.
And I was thinking I'd be the only black kid doing karate. So that's where it started. And then my mom's like, well, you got to pick something else. So I chose basketball because he was doing basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And I started off really, really bad. And I just worked at it. And over time, my skills developed and I got better and I got more confidence. And the more confidence came, the passion.
Yeah, so and I remember, and it's so funny. I wish technology was where it was today, because you remember I was actually supposed to do like a highlight reel for you, but the way the technology worked, I couldn't. I knew what I wanted to do, but I wasn't even skilled. Hadn't even went back to college yet. But then afterwards, would go and play in college, what was the game like for you making that transition?
Oh man, college was amazing because I had a lot to prove. My last year of high school, I felt like I got snubbed as far as time went. And then my very last high school game, my coach benched me. And then when I asked him about it, he told me he got caught up in the game and he just forgot about me. And that was something that really rubbed me the wrong way. So when I got to college, I really had a point to prove. But going into my freshman year, I got injured literally, I think about a month before the season started. So I had to come back from injury. So it took me a couple of weeks to really get back in the flow of things. But when I was ready to rock and roll, I was focused. Basketball was my number one love and my number one passion.
Yeah, so then you would go to Virginia to college, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah,
And
I went to Virginia State University. I went there for about 3 months. I
yeah.
definitely enjoyed the process there.
Yeah, and I remember you had, they found some form of cancer in your chest around that time. And, the grace of God, you would go in to beat that. But then you would go to Towson to finish out your college career, correct?
Yes, that's very correct. So what happened was I ended up having cancer for 6 months. I went on chemotherapy. I ended up beating that. And I went back to community college for a semester, trying to figure things out. And I really wanted to go back to college, but I didn't want to go too far. So I ended up in Towson. But by that time, I was 21 years old and I wasn't really focused on college. I was really focused on me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really in a selfish place and I just wanted to learn and grow. And I felt like being close to home and around my friends would give me that environment to grow.
Now, one of the things I was listening to your podcast, you had a lady, the real estate mogul in there.
Yes,
And one of the things that you talked about was you felt if college wasn't for you, which you just, kind of chimed in on, but you still finish because you felt, in a sense, you owed it to, your mom and your family. How
definitely.
did you, because a lot of people still want to impress their parents, right? But they will still say, no, I'm still gonna do what I want to do. How did you, what led you to say, you know what, I don't want to, like, college ain't for me, but I gotta finish? What was the pressing thing about that for
So with that situation, my mother's always preached, go to school, get your education. At the end of the day, no one can take that from you.
you?
So
Mm-hmm.
for me, when I got to college and I wasn't playing basketball anymore, I really didn't feel like I had a drive to be there. And at that point in my life, I was really starting to dive into business and really want to get focused on being an entrepreneur. So as a result, I started looking at ways that I could maximize my time in college and also maximize getting refund checks. So I broke down how many classes I would have to take per year so that I could get my degree in a reasonable enough time to make money from refund checks.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that if I stayed at Towson for an extra 3 years, that I would be able to graduate and I also be able to get 3 years worth of refund checks. So and I knew that as long as I graduated, that would make my mother happy. So I just felt like sticking in there and stugging it out.
Yeah. Now, you talk about, basically flipping the refund checks. Without going too far into details, how did, like, because a lot of people will take that and they'll just use it for, getting fresh or, just buying a bunch of toys. Me, and shout out to my wrestling co-host, the real Dwayne Allen, we looked at it as an opportunity to buy equipment for us, So the matter of fact, the MacBook I'm using, I bought with my college refund check. The camera I had, were you doing stuff like that? Like, were you using this to start
You
putting
know,
forth
I,
for your
I,
business?
I was young and dumb.
Okay.
I was partying. I was paying my rent, making sure my car note was paid on
Well,
time.
they ain't young and dumb then. You paid your bills.
Yeah, I definitely paid my bills and I got some experiences. While I was at Towson, first time I went out the country. I visited Dubai. I bought luxury items. I made sure that my responsibility was taken care of, but I didn't invest the money the right way. If I could do it over, I would definitely do it differently.
Yeah. So you would say you had a good college experience though,
I had
right?
fun. I definitely had fun in college.
All right. So
I definitely had fun.
I know you got into, anybody who knows, I hope I don't get you in trouble with this one, but anybody who worked with us at Best Buy knew that you had some of the tip-top customer service skills, especially when it came to the ladies.
I was a ladies' man.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I was a ladies'
By
man.
far,
I learned from my mother to be a person of value, and you'll attract the right crowd to you.
And folks, he used to always be smooth, even in 19 when I met him. But what made you want to stay in the like customer service? I know you had stops at Delta Airlines, the Jet, Blue Airways. What made you want to stay in the customer service as opposed to going to the boardroom right away?
So to be honest with you, once I graduated from college, I never felt like my degree was, I guess, valuable to the marketplace. I felt like me as an individual was more valuable to the marketplace. So I wanted to dive in on my skill sets that would turn around and make me money. And I felt like customer service skill sets will allow me to focus and maximize my gifts. So as a result of that, I just stayed in where I felt like my gifts could be best utilized. While in that process, I started educating myself with personal development and learning things that can make me be successful for the long term.
Okay. So now, we move forward. You with Blue Shift Partners. You
Yes.
talk about that.
Well, Blue Shift Partners is a media company. Blue comes from, when I was a baby, I had blue lips. So as a
Oh,
kid growing up, they all called me Blue. So I felt like that meant something to me. It was more than just about money. It was about my past. And one day I was just driving and I was just like, I wanted something that makes sense to me. And I thought about blue and I said, you know what? To me, blue stands for believe, learn, understand, and educate. How when those four things come together in your life, they make a shift because you can no longer be the same person if you have those four elements.
okay. Now, with your media company, what's like some of the things y'all do?
So right now we're focused on growing a podcast and growing an audience so that we could turn around and make other investments as far as merchandising, as far as an entertainment company, as far as maybe a liquor brand. I want Blue Shift Partners to be a parent company to smaller companies around the blue logo or Blue Shift logo.
Okay, so and folks, one of the things I will be doing, well, I should say, you can check out in the description of this podcast is a link to Blue Shift Partners. We're going to definitely make sure. So, after you finish listening to this, we want to make sure you tune on right over there, especially if you drive your car, pull over or wait till you get to the red light, pull over and get subscribe to them, drop a 5-star rating. So that way, we can spread the word. When did you take an interest in podcasts? Do you remember the moment that you had where you was like, man, this is something I could do? Now, like, because I remember when you first told me, I thought it was perfect. Just me knowing you, I was like, oh, that's perfect, because you like to talk and you like to connect with people. I watch you. And at the time, I know you're a Giants fan as opposed to a Ravens fan, but I watch you connect with millionaires, being Ravens players or business people when they came in, and you would explain to them not just how to use, and this is in the early days of the iPod touches. So not just how, okay, you just put music, but you would explain to them how they could use it more and how it could benefit them more. So I knew that podcasting would be perfect for you. But when did you develop, and like when did you see like the light bulb go off in your ear, like, hey, this is what I should be doing?
I think it was I was watching Drink Champs one day. Shout out to Nori and Drink Champs, and my cousin had came over, and I was like, "Yo, bro, I think we should do a podcast. I think it's some real money in there." And while studying the podcast game, I started realizing that I think voice technology will be big in the future, and I felt like personal branding would be super important to creating a legacy as well as a financial foundation. So I just started diving in, and to be honest, I was scared for a long time to get started. Very scared. So I was just waiting for the right time and the right moment, but I definitely felt like it was the right decision and the right choice to be made when I made it.
Yeah, I tell a lot of my mentees who say they want to do a podcast, I said, one, be passionate about it. Consistency is, I know for one, like somebody telling me, hey, I got a podcast. I was like, cool, I'm gonna check it out. I don't listen to that much music. The music game is just not of my liking anymore, but I'm always listening to different podcasts. I'm listening to different shows. To be quite honest, I listen to more podcasts of the people who trying to come up as opposed to, your major home run hitters like Joe Buck, and somebody else got a podcast. And I checked it out, but I want to hear what my friends are saying, especially when it comes to sports. If I might not be able to text somebody about the game last night, but I know they do a show every week. I could just listen to it and then tweet my trash talk right online. So what's the overall? So what are you looking like? What type of guests? What type of content can people expect?
I want not necessarily always just the average successful person, but I also want the average person because I feel like everybody has a story to tell. And I've learned that in everybody's story, you can learn something. You're never supposed to take 100% of anybody's story away from them, but in everybody's story, they have jewels that you can learn. And I want to be able to motivate and inspire the next entrepreneur, the next great person to be successful, because I feel like everybody in life deserves a choice for what they want to do with their life. So I want to give them that.
Yeah. Now, do you plan to have like divisions? Because I know you when it comes to sports, and when you come to basketball, you talk a good game. Like you don't just say the craziest stuff. Like you make sense. And so, will you be allowed? Have you thought about getting into the sports realm and allowing the world to see how the way you know the game better than say the average fan? Will you allow the world to get insight of that?
It's crazy. After having cancer, honestly, I felt like basketball saved my life,
Mm-hmm.
because that was the only thing that gave me the motivation to fight through cancer and to fight through the chemotherapy. It wasn't the family, it wasn't the friends. For me, it was basketball. I wanted to get back on that court. But when I was able to get back on the court, I just didn't have the love or the passion for it no more. And for the last couple of years, that's one of the things I've been struggling with, trying to find that passion, that joy for the sports and for the game. I watched the Michael Jordan Last Dance documentary, and towards the end of it, I almost broke down, because it was just like, took me back to that place where I know basketball's still a part of me, but right now in my life, it just hasn't been the main focus. And I still love the game. I support everybody who plays the game. It's just, for basketball, that's a real touchy subject, because I feel like I gave it my all, and it gave me something that I could never repay. It gave me a second chance at life.
Mm-hmm. Well, I gotta commend you though, because I went to Morgan State University, and I was there at the time. I took, when we met, I was on my break from school. So I went back to school. That's the reason why I transferred from the Owens Mills store to the Towson store. One of the things I noticed was, so when I got there, it was right after they had won the MEAC. So then the next couple of years, you remember, because Amir was
Yep.
one of our good friends. And I remember when I brought your name up, he would always ask about you. And I had the honor of interviewing him, but this was after he had graduated. And, it's the whole Blake Griffin thing. When he slammed him, let's call for what it is.
Definitely slammed them.
Yeah, but Amir, unlike him, there were some players who didn't know what they wanted to do with life after the game.
Mm-hmm.
Once the game had left them, or the game had said, they had reached their peak, they were on an island like, okay, so what do I do with my life? Do I do this? Do I do that? So I got to commend you, because you knew exactly what you wanted to do. You wanted to get into entrepreneurship, and that's hard for a lot of people to do.
Definitely.
So like, when you have you gotten into the mentor side of it yet?
Yes, I have gotten into the mentor side. So one of my mentors that really got me focused on entrepreneurship was Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins. Since I've been in the network, since I started focusing on becoming a network marketing professional as well, Eric Worre. These are people that I find inspiration from, motivation from, take their life lessons and see how do I apply them to myself so that I can have success for the long term.
Okay. So I got to ask you this. The title of the show is called Breaking Through the Glass Ceiling. When you look back and you think about everything, when did you, Kenny Barrett, break through the glass ceiling?
Be honest with you, I want to say it was about 2015. I was in the house and I was on the phone with my mother, and we were just talking about life and things of that nature. And I was like, I want something different. I want something different. I want something more. And I had the Steve Harvey book, his finance book, and I read it and was just like, I know that in order for me to be successful to the level that I want to be successful, I got to start reading. And I was like, I got to force myself to read, because as a kid growing up, I hated reading books. That just wasn't my thing. Like I was a kid that wanted to play basketball all the time. So as a result, I just started reading. I started diving in and becoming a student of business, becoming a student of life, becoming a student of personal development. And it was at that moment that I was like, I'm really going to do this for sure.
Yeah. Now, have you had a chance to take any young ones under your wing yet?
No, not yet. Not yet. I have a friend of mine's. I definitely coach her as far as her finances go and helping her with growing her business and give her tips so that's how she can be successful. But as of right now, no mentees yet.
Okay. I'll tell you, man, it's a beautiful thing when, and you're never too new to mentor somebody else. Or I should say, never too new. I've seen people mentee people while they were in school, seniors mentoring sophomores and juniors. I did, shout out to my friend Brianna Hamilton. I've had the honor of being able to do that. Now I have probably about 10 to 12 journalists. need to have a million of them, just because I want to make sure I give everybody their time. But when you can see, it's nothing like, shout out to my boy Mark Webster. He hit me up the other day, told me he got a job. And that type of stuff is like very rewarding, man, because like I said, I know at Best Buy, you may not even think of it this way, but you was a mentor to me, because even though you were younger, you was out there selling all the protection plans. So I was like, well, shoot, Kenny's selling. They was like, yeah, he sold about 15, 18, 20 protection plans in a day, 20 through 23. So I was like, all right, I got to do the same thing, because if I don't, he going to be like, yo, what you doing? No, man, you messing up.
Definitely.
Would you say, when you look back at your Best Buy career and you look at your life now, what are some of the key things that you took from there to bring to where you at now?
One was everything happens for a reason, believe it or not, because before I got to Best Buy, I applied to work at Target, and I was really wanted to work at Target, and I did the interview. I took the drug test, and they said my drug test results came back longer than they needed the wait time, so I wound up not getting the job. Okay. And then I went to school, and I told my teacher, I said, well, I'll work at Best Buy. It's a new store. I really want to work there. So she called the manager, said, I have a student that wanted to do student work, and he came and they hired me. And as a result, it ended up being an amazing 7-year process. It was my first job. I didn't know anything about selling. I just knew how to be a people person. I just wanted to relate to people. And it definitely was an experience. And it taught me that over time, your skills will develop, but just stay in the game.
Okay. Well, man, definitely shout out to, some of the people, we work with, Shantae, and that last name Warfield now, Heather Harvin, who was a previous guest on the show, Eric Breedy, who often listens to the show. So shout out to them. Definitely appreciate them, and so many more. I will say this, man. The worst thing I had to do was leave the Owens Mill store to go to Towson. The experience was totally different. It was better when Steve Wizard came over. I will say that. Shout out to, it was a couple people, my boy D Mac, Sharice Brown, and Brandon Moore, and Clifton Stafford. Those are like the good people. The rest, I ain't gonna say they were bad people, but Owens Mills, we had a family. Like everybody just like, like I said, when I got there, you was like, all right, man, let me show you the ropes, and that's how the culture of the store. Towson, they was just like, oh, you here? Okay. And they said because the turnover ratio was so high. But before I let you go, man, let the people know where they can find you, where they can get connected, and where they can download the podcast.
Yeah, definitely. You could download the podcast on Audio Max, SoundCloud, under Blue Shift Partners. You can also find me on Facebook at Kenny Barrett 28, or you can find me on Instagram at Kenny Barrett, or Kenny_Barrett, BARR 3TT, or you can find me on Team Blue Shift on Instagram as well.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's the one and only Kenny Barrett. Make sure you guys give him a follow, connect with him. I'm trying to tell you, it will definitely be worth it, folks.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for this week's episode of Breaking Through the Glass Ceiling. Hope you got a lot of information from Kenny. Make sure you check out his podcast. Next week, I bring on a good friend of mine, the one and only Miss Chanel Starling. Chanel and I go back to the illustrious Morgan State University, and we have a good conversation on how she has gone in different directions to get to where she is at ESPN now, and also how she has led the charge in inspiring other Black women in the business. So, folks, as we get rolling with season 2 of Breaking Through the Glass Ceiling, make sure you subscribe to the podcast each and everywhere you can get your podcast from. Make sure you share it with your friends. Tell them this is what they need to listen to. If they want to get inspired, if they want to hear somebody else's story, this is the show to listen to. And remember, do not let anybody set up a glass ceiling that you can't break.